doing or having. They have access to this statute. It's Title 18, U.S.
Cynthia Loomis, Republican from Wyoming.
It says, whoever being an officer, employee, contractor, or consultant to the United States, and by virtue of his office, employment, position, or contract, becomes possessed of documents or materials containing classified information of the United States, knowingly removes such documents or materials without authority and with the intent to retain such documents or materials at an unauthorized location, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 1 year or both. Armed with that information, they're wondering how Hillary Clinton, who is also an attorney, and attorneys are frequently held to a higher standard of knowledge of the law, how this could not have come to her attention. She was the Secretary of State. Of course the Secretary of State is going to become possessed of classified materials. Of course she was attorney. She practiced with a prominent Arkansas law firm, the Rose Law Firm. She knew from her White House days with her husband, the president, the classified materials can be very dangerous if they get into the wrong hands. She had to have known about this statute because she had to have been briefed when she took over the job as the Secretary of State. So how, given that body of knowledge and experience, could this have happened in a way that could have potentially provided access by hackers to confidential information?
No, it's a good question, a reasonable question. The protection we have as Americans is that the government, in general and in that statute in particular, has to prove before they can prosecute any of us that we did this thing that's forbidden by the law, and that when we did it, we knew we were doing something that was unlawful. We don't have to know the code number, but that we knew we were doing something that was unlawful. That's the protection we have, and it's one I've worked for very hard. When I was in the private sector, I did a lot of work with the Chamber of Commerce to stop the criminalization of negligence in the United States.
You know, though, Mr. May I interrupt and suggest that this statute says knowingly remove such documents or materials without authority and with the intent to retain such documents or materials at an unauthorized location. The intent here in the statute is to retain the documents at an unauthorized location. It's not intent to pass them on to a terrorist or to someone out in internet land. It's just the intent to retain the documents or materials at an unauthorized location.
It's more than that, though. You'd have to show that and prove criminal intent, both by law, that's the way the judge would instruct a jury, and practice of the Department of Justice. They have reserved that statute, even though it's just a misdemeanor, for people who clearly knew they were breaking the law, and that's the challenge. So should have known, must have known, had to know, does not get you there. You must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they knew they were engaged in something that was unlawful.
Okay,
that's the challenge.
May I turn to her attorneys? Did all of Secretary Clinton's attorneys have the requisite clearances at the time they received all of her emails, especially those that were classified at the time they were sent?
No.
They destroyed, as has been noted, 30,000 emails of Secretary Clinton's. Do you have 100% confidence that none of the 30,000 emails destroyed by Secretary Clinton's attorneys was marked as classified?
I don't have 100% confidence. I'm reasonably confident some of them were classified. There were only 3 in the entire batch we found that bore any markings that indicated they were classified, so that's less likely, but surely it's a reasonable assumption that some of the ones they deleted contain classified information.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.